Welcome to the Jazz Piano School podcast, where we have one mission, that is to help as many interested people around the world learn and improve at jazz piano by providing structured and organized jazz piano education. I'm your host, as always, Brendan Lowe, and thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be episode number 98 of our podcast. That's incredible. And in this episode, I'm going to be going over the Bill Evans solo off of his album Explorations. He's playing Beautiful Love. If you're looking for the transcription of this solo and the notes that I go over in this podcast, you can go to jazzpianoschool.com/podcast98 to download that. And if you're new to Jazz Piano School, you can go to jazzpianoschool.com/look inside to find out about our courses and services that we offer. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So the great thing about this solo and what Bill Evans does here, again, is his rhythmic displacements. And this is something you're going to see in the solo a lot. So right off the bat with the first chorus break, he's got these upbeats, quarter note upbeats. So he has 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So he lands the first measure on the downbeat of 4, which is kind of interesting. Then he's got these groupings of 3. So 1 and 2, 3 and 4. So again, both measures land on the downbeat of 4. He loves doing this, actually. And if you look at it more, if you studied Bill Evans a lot, he lands a lot of his improv lines on the downbeat of 4. It's just a very cool thing. A lot of people land on 1, right? But the magic to his playing is that he's landing on the downbeat of 4. So if I play this again, 1, 2, 3, 4. I just held that D down so you could hear the harmony, but a really fun line, again, with these 3-note groupings, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Just really a really nice texture. Now, throughout this, I'm just going to be using left-hand harmonies so that you can hear the harmonies rather than his left-hand comping, because you won't be able to hear how his solo is being affected by the harmonies. But now, at the top of his first chorus, what he does is he launches into you expect him to start out swinging, right? Most people would start out swinging. He goes into this quarter note triplet texture, right? So quarter note triplets is going to be a 3 against 2 feel or rhythmic rhythms, I guess. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? And then you have the 4 going in the background. So he starts on the third beat of the quarter note triplet. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and, right? So it's a really funny, it's a grouping of 4 quarter note triplets, which first of all is just interesting. And then he starts on beat 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and then he ends with 2 eighth notes, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I'll go ahead and play that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Whoops, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Right? So that's kind of what that sounds like there, and just kind of out of place, it sounds funny, right? So when you have the swinging quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, dot, 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 those are your quarter note triplets, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So it's just, again, it's kind of an interesting way to start that solo off. Now, in measures 3 and 4, he doesn't have much going on here, but the only thing to pay attention to is this B flat he's using in D natural minor he's using to come down. So here's the line. And again, the last rhythm there, he's putting quarter notes, right? So he has a quarter note on beat 4, like I just talked about, and then beat 1, right? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1. Again, just kind of a funny way to resolve something, right? But it's very nice. It's not funny, I should say. It's really beautiful, right? Okay, so that's going into, and then again, the note selection here to pay attention to is that B flat. So as we move into the next measures here, whoops, I kind of scattered my papers. Hold on one sec. There we go. The transcription. So let me see here. Just want to make sure this isn't protruding into the camera angle. There we go. So he goes into this 2-5. We just have a regular 2-5, right? G minor going to C7, going to F major. But listen to what he does here. So again, he starts on an upbeat. A lot of the lines you'll hear, he starts on upbeats, or he'll resolve further into the measure, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. So 1 and 2 and 3. So he resolves to the third of the G minor on beat 3, which is kind of nice, right? So there's the resolution. Then he continues up. Finally resolves to the 5, right, of the C7 on beat 2. Okay, so he has these little approaches. right? And again, that's just approach notes, bebop approach notes there. But so here, a thing to point out is he has these two triads moving up as well. So even though he's approaching the third, he's also creating this triad movement upwards, like with the approach notes, as you can see here. 1 and 2, right? There's the triad, another triad, but then he continues up. Finally resolves to the 5 of the C7. Continues up the C, Mixolydian scale, not much going on there. Moves to the flat 9, and then holds on the and of 4 on the C, which is kind of, again, another nice little rhythm. So he has 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Again, landing on the downbeat of 4, another great takeaway. So from the C7, right? So it has this little interesting rhythm at the very end of the measure, right? So again, from the beginning here. Very, very nice line, very Bill Evansy, right? Because of those little things I talked about, okay? Now, the next textures you're going to start to see is that he has these little triplet figures throughout his line. So instead of just swinging all eighth notes, right? He has triplets on beats just within his eighth note line. So it's just really, really nice. So he might have 1 tuple lit 3, right? Or 1, 2, triple lit 4. So adding these triplets in 1 tuple lit 4 and 1, right? Or 1, 2, triple lit 1, right? Adding these little triplet groupings into your playing is a really, really nice thing. So he starts out with a triplet, 1, 2, triple lit 4 and 1, and he lands on a C sharp, right? On the downbeat of 1. So he starts out with a triplet, 1, 2, triplet. That little line there is just funny in itself, right? And so, again, landing on that C sharp doesn't sound great, but it's about how he resolves. And again, remember to how I was talking about his resolutions are happening later. So he hits the C sharp on 1, and he actually resolves to the D, the root, on the upbeat of 2. 1 and, right? 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3. So now he has this triplet once he hits this A. So 1 and 2 and triplet. 1 and 2 and triplet. 3, 4 and. So there's the line there. Very, very nice line. Again, that triplet within the middle is a very interesting texture. So he has a triplet to start the line off with on the A7. 1, 2, triplet. And again, just the resolution on the upbeat creates tension, right? And then he goes into the triplet. He moves into the next chord, the G minor, on the upbeat. So 1 and 2 and 3. Now this line is very interesting. Listen to this. Now this little thing here, a really nice line, right? So he chooses to use this C sharp, right, over the G minor 7, which is a very interesting choice, right? And again, he could have been thinking about the C sharp more as the kind of a leading sharp 9 into the B flat 7, because we're going to a B flat 7 here. So he might have just been thinking sharp 9 over the B flat 7, proceeding, like moving into it, right? So now, as he hits this B flat 7, we got a couple things, not much going on here, but 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So what's happening here is just a couple approach notes. Chord scale above, half step below to the 5, right? 9, flat 7, 5. Again, just another triad formation there, right? Right? So 1 and, whoops, sorry, I played that wrong. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Okay. Oops, sorry. Hitting the mic here. Very nice line. Again, landing on the 7 of the A7 and just resolving down to the 5th with the flat 13 there, right over that A7. So here's the line slowly from the D minor. Very, very Bill Evans. I mean, you can hear everything. I should have started from the measure before because that's really where he starts the line. And if you'll notice, he starts his lines, right? Rarely does he just start on beat 1. He'll start on beat 3 leading into the line, right? His lines are usually from like beat 3 to beat 3 or like beat 3 to beat 4. Okay, another big takeaway. So 1, 2. Very, very technically difficult and just movements, a lot of movement, right? With dexterity, requires a lot of dexterity, adding those triplets in and jumps, right? He has some octave jumps in there, so really nice thing there. Now, this next little line is kind of just a fun thing to borrow because he's got a triplet, 3 triplet figures in a row. But the cool thing about this is he doubles the last note, so he goes... Just a really cool thing. Like I don't even play that ever, you know, and I should start because it's just a fun little line to play. Just a cool thing to do, right? So on your triplet, you're just doubling the last note. You're just lifting your hand. Lift, lift, right? Then he moves into the B minor 7 with this kind of rhythmic motif he has here. So 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and... So again, he starts his line going into beat 3 and then does the same thing going into beat 3, but then extends it over the bar line, ending on the end of, 1 and 2, landing on beat 2, right? So here it is again, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, and 2. Let me do that again. I played the wrong left-hand voicing. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3. Right? Lands on the downbeat of beat 2. So just a very simple, right? In those last 2 measures, but just the where he, is placing the rhythms is very, very key. And so don't disregard don't think it's to play simple and move the rhythms around is going to be very powerful, right? A very powerful strategy, just like he's doing here. Now, this next line is, the beginning of moving into the next A section in the piece, but it's a really fun thing. I'll continue with this just a little bit. So I'm just going to play these triads that he starts out with. So he has this A flat triad, D triad, then moves into a B flat augmented triad, and then continues with his line. Now the rhythm here is again all quarter note triplets. So he starts on the second quarter note triplet. So I think this was about the tempo 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So there's our quarter note triplet, right? So 1, 2, 1. So that's the line right there, right? So 1. Very, very just like outline. Now the fact that he starts on the second quarter note triplet is very interesting. So you have this, excuse me, I'm a little sick. So you have this kind of displaced, rhythmic quarter note triplet figure with these triads, right? And then finally this B flat augmented triad moving into the resolution plus another 8th note grouping within the quarter note triplets, Be-bo-dee-da-da. That's just funny. It's just like a little funny thing that makes it so great, right? Now, if you just play that, you could use that a line alone and kind of use that as a motif, right? It's just a fun thing to do. So again, here's the line. So 1. Now, if I started this on beat 1, right, it would sound kind of simpler. So 1, 2. But see, the thing is, he starts it on the second beat of the quarter note triplet and then turns it around at the end. So 1, 2. Right? So the E flat is actually the downbeat on beat 1 of the next measure. Very, very fun little line moving over that minor 2-5. Now, was he thinking flat 6 triad going to a 1 major triad, right? That would kind of seem like the most sense because having this flat, he might have been thinking this, right? Flat 6, like a 7 triad. Now, I'm not really sure. I can't really tell you what his thoughts were exactly. To me, the flat 6 over a D minor, over a D makes the most sense. Kind of thinking flat 6, and then thinking, excuse me, I keep saying flat 6, flat 5, excuse me. flat 5 going to 1 major triad over that kind of D minor triad. So he's getting this sound and then a major sound over the minor. But essentially, because the harmonies are minor 2-5, you have a different kind of different sound, right? You have this sound and then moving into that. Right, getting that augmented sound over the A7, this sound right here. So really, really cool sounds coming out of this. So that's as far as I'm going to do. I'm not going to go anymore. I'll probably do part 2 next week. Just a really, really fun and great solo. He got some simple, it's simple, yet at the same time, it's so complex. And I haven't even talked about the rhythmic comping he has in his left hand. That's just, it's integrated so that it blends with what his right hand is doing. And it's absolutely fantastic. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I love this stuff. It's just, Bill Evans is such a master with this type of stuff, along with some other greats. I hope you were able to get some good takeaways from this. So again, we had the rhythmic displacement ending on beat 4, his resolutions happening later in the measure, his lines going from like beat 3 to beat 2 or beat 4 to beat 3 or beat 4 to beat 2. Remember, his lines aren't just from 1 to 1 to 1. He has a lot of great rhythm texture, starting quarter note triplets on beat 2, starting your quarter note triplets on beat 3, right? Ending your lines on extensions, adding triplet figures into your line, right? So 1 tuplet 3, tuplet 4, 1 2 3 4, right? Just little groupings of 3. Then we had that nice little doubling line, right? That was a really cool line out of there. So guys, hope you enjoyed this. Have a fantastic day and happy practicing.